They control with emotion. We reveal the pattern. Psych Atlas.
In February 2025, Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa were found dead in their Santa Fe estate. The media erupted. Then, silence. Engineered. You forgot. Within 48 hours. Completely. That amnesia wasn't an accident. It was a product. Betsy Arakawa was killed by Hantavirus, a lethal pathogen breeding inside her own outbuildings, and the media buried her name before her body cooled. Welcome to the architecture of distraction. Your brain didn't fail you here. It was trained to fail you. Psychologists call the mechanism Construal level theory, and it is weaponized against you every single day. Watch the trick. The media broadcasts a quarantined cruise ship thousands of miles away, framing it as an apocalyptic crisis. This distant spectacle triggers massive panic without demanding any real physical responsibility. Meanwhile, the actual lethal threat silently breeds in the dark dust of your very own garage. Because cleaning your garage requires real action. The distant ship simply requires clicks. The celebrity death was just a coffin designed to bury a much darker statistical truth. Welcome to the identifiable victim effect. When a Hollywood icon's wife suffocates from a pathogen, your brain processes it as an isolated tragedy. You feel a fleeting sense of grief, but absolutely zero biological terror. That is a fatal misdirection. The hantavirus doesn't care about red carpets. Since its discovery in the 1993 Four Corners outbreak, it is hunted through the most mundane carrier imaginable, the deer mouse. There is no cinematic explosion. You simply walk into your shed, sweep up some dried rodent droppings, and inhale an invisible aerosol. Days later, your lungs fill with fluid, a 40% fatality rate. But a broom and a dusty garage don't generate ad revenue. Panic does. So the media stripped the environmental warning from the Hackman estate and sold you a glossy obituary instead. Police logs from their Santa Fe property showed active live traps and dead rodents everywhere. The ultimate breeding ground. Yet, you were instructed to mourn a celebrity, not to check your own attic. They sold you the grief, so you wouldn't notice the invisible weapon floating in your own air. Here is the exact mechanism they used to blind you. Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman called it the availability heuristic. Your brain calculates danger not by actual statistics, but by how easily a memory is retrieved. A quarantine ship with yellow hazmat suits is cinematic. It gets broadcasted every hour, burning into your retinas. This engineered repetition tricks your amygdala into believing the cinematic threat is absolutely everywhere. Meanwhile, a deer mouse is relentlessly boring. A dusty shed in New Mexico doesn't trigger global fascination. The algorithm starves it of airtime. Consequently, your brain deletes the threat entirely. You are navigating a biological minefield using a map drawn by advertisers. The true danger lives not in the pathogen's biology, but on the newsroom editing desk. They literally curate your nightmares. They didn't hide the hantavirus to protect you from panic. They suppressed it because mundane local threats demand real-world action, and a viewer actively cleaning their garage is a viewer who stops watching screens. You are not the consumer of this carefully curated fear. You are the product being harvested. Welcome to the click economy. Distant spectacles are infinitely profitable because they engineer a state of passive paralysis. You cannot physically fight a quarantined ship 3,000 miles away. So, you scroll. A local threat shatters this spell. If they explicitly warn you about infected rodent droppings in your own shed, it demands immediate physical response. And physical action is the absolute enemy of audience retention. The moment you stand up to clean your garage, the screen goes dark. The ad revenue stops. To keep you watching, the media must ensure the danger feels apocalyptic, yet entirely out of your control. This is the anatomy of manufactured helplessness. They don't just want your attention, They require your psychological submission. You become addicted to monitoring a crisis you can never actually solve. The Hantavirus reality was buried because it empowered you with a simple, actionable defense, a broom and a mask. That mundane truth didn't fit the lucrative business model of eternal panic. But what exactly happens inside your skull when you are subjected to this endless, inescapable dread? What actually happens inside your skull when you are relentlessly bombarded by distant apocalyptic scenarios? Psychologists call it terror management theory. Constant reminders of mortality trigger a catastrophic, involuntary cognitive override. Your prefrontal cortex, the center of logic, reason, and critical thinking, simply shuts down. Your amygdala takes full control, plunging you into a primal state. You stop analyzing, you start obeying. In this engineered state of panic, human beings rapidly regress. You desperately seek the safety of the herd. You crave absolute authority and simple, comforting narratives to make the terror stop. The media knows exactly how to exploit this biological backdoor. They didn't show you the deer mouse because a mundane rodent doesn't paralyze your prefrontal cortex. A global plague does. You believed your anxiety was a natural defense mechanism keeping you safe from the hantavirus. It wasn't. Your fear is a psychological door, and they hold the only key. But how do you close a psychological door that you didn't even know was wide open? Let me give you the exact geographical blueprint they scrubbed from your feed. Since the 1993 Four Corners outbreak, the Sin Nombre virus has quietly dominated the American West. Indigenous Navajo elders warned about this cycle centuries before modern virologists. A wet spring brings lush vegetation, causing the western deer mouse population to absolutely explode. The invisible invasion begins. Here is the brutal, uncensored manual they kept from you. You walk into your garage and see dried rodent droppings. You grab a broom to clean it up. That mundane sweeping motion creates a lethal aerosol. The moment you inhale that microscopic dust, the virus invades your pulmonary capillary endothelial cells. Your own immune system triggers severe pulmonary edema, flooding your lungs with fluid. You literally drown from the inside out. Those facts could save your life. A practical warning to spray bleach on droppings instead of sweeping empowers you to act. And empowered viewers do not generate panic-driven ad revenue. So how do you defend yourself against a machine specifically designed to keep you afraid and misinformed? You are trapped in a digital panopticon, but the cell doors are completely wide open. To dismantle the architecture of distraction, you must install a cognitive firewall. Initiate the defense protocol. First, apply the proximity test. Whenever the media broadcasts a new apocalypse, ask yourself, is this threat actually within 50 miles of my physical location, or is it a distant spectacle? Second, demand action over panic. Ask, does this information empower me to protect myself, or does it only harvest my anxiety? If it demands zero physical action, it is a product. Finally, deploy the ultimate cognitive weapon, the forgotten question. When a bright, flashing narrative dominates every screen, what darker, silent truth is being intentionally buried in the shadows behind it? By asking these questions, you shatter the algorithmic terrarium. Your prefrontal cortex reboots. You stop being a passive consumer of engineered dread and become the architect of your own reality. You reclaimed your mind, but the silent plague is still waiting. We are currently living through two simultaneous, overlapping plagues. The first is biological, the hantavirus quietly claiming lives in the dusty shadows of the American Southwest. The second is entirely psychological. This second plague is loud, manufactured, and highly contagious. It effortlessly infects 8 billion minds through glowing screens, trading your actual biological safety for the lucrative currency of eternal, paralyzing panic. Your sole responsibility was to figure out which epidemic was actually targeting you. Now you know. The velvet blindfold has been removed, and there is absolutely no going back to sleep. Stop treating the media as a lighthouse guiding you through the storm. They are the sirens, deliberately crashing your ship onto the rocks while you stare blindly into their artificial beam. You survived the architecture of distraction. Next, we will uncover how they are silently rewriting your past memories to control your future decisions. Answer this in the comments. What physical threat, like a Hantavirus breeding garage, are you actively ignoring because a screen commanded you to fear a distant illusion? If this shattered your algorithmic terrarium, hit the like button, subscribe, and prepare for the cognitive war.